All right, good evening, everyone. It's Eric here, live edition of Weather for Weather Geeks on this Friday evening. Let me make sure my mic is in the right spot here so you can hear me. Okay. We're going to talk about tonight's wintry mess. We've got some snow on the way, we've got some ice on the way, and then we've got a much different day coming up for tomorrow, a rare, warm December day coming up for your Saturday afternoon. Before we get to all that, just a quick review, because I find this stuff interesting. Of the month so far, we have not had one above average day, warmer than average day, so far in December. And that means that it's been a big change compared to the rest of 2016. You know, for the year, so far, April's been the only colder than average month. Every other month has been warmer than average here in Youngstown. And that is in jeopardy, that streak, this month. It just depends on how the end of the month turns out. I do think the end of the month will be quite a bit milder than the first half of the month. But again, here's a look at 2016 as a whole. April, we were about 2 degrees below average, and for December so far, we're 4.5 degrees below the average. All right, let's talk about tonight's weather. Now, we have a band of snow that is being picked up on the radar, but most of this is not reaching the ground. The relative humidity is very, very low here near the ground, so this is mostly evaporating before it reaches the ground. There could be a few flakes in there, but even so, it is pushing north and east of our viewing area, so even if there are some stray flakes there, that is no big deal. The more substantial or legitimate snow, if you will, is off to our south and west. Lima to Columbus to Dayton, heading down towards Cincinnati. And this is the band that's going to come in a few hours and start to bring us some accumulations of snow. And notice we have some pink showing up on the radar now across the lower Ohio Valley, back towards St. Louis. That's the area of mixed precipitation that'll eventually work in as we go into the wee hours of tomorrow morning. We're talking about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'll show you the timing of things in just a second. Temperatures will play a big part in how things go as we head through the night tonight. It's still very, very cold outside. It's in the teens, but notice Columbus is at 21, Cincinnati's at 27. Temperatures will continue to rise as we go through the overnight, and that will have impacts on our precipitation. Now, it's more important in these mixed precipitation situations, it's more important what the temperature actually is a few thousand feet above our heads than it is here at the ground level. And we're going to have a period late tonight when the air a few thousand feet above our heads is above freezing, but the air here at the ground is below freezing. That's a recipe for sleet and particularly freezing rain. All right, National Weather Service advisories here, winter weather advisory for Trumbull, Mahone, and Columbiana, and it's a winter storm warning for Mercer and Lawrence. The reason for the difference is the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh believes that there'll be enough freezing rain in western Pennsylvania to warrant a winter storm warning, which is a category up from a winter weather advisory. Not sure I totally agree with that, but they nonetheless went with the winter storm warning because of the ice threat in western PA. All right, so we're clear this evening. I think that first band of snow that I just showed you back in western Ohio pushes in a few hours. Right around 11 o'clock as I go on the air tonight at 11 on 21 News, we should be showing you an active radar with some light to moderate snow around. And the snow will accumulate. It'll have no trouble accumulating because, again, temperature is very cold. It's still only in the lower and middle 20s when it is snowing later on tonight. So we're going to get a quick thump of snow that's going to give us on average of a couple of inches. Roads are going to turn slippery. Untreated surfaces will become slick. But, the timing on this is pretty good. It's Saturday morning, in the wee hours of the morning. Not a lot of people are going to be out. That is a good thing. If this were at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday, it'd be a whole different deal. So we get our couple inches of snow, and then as the air aloft starts to warm, we start talking about some mixed precipitation and the threat for some freezing rain. Again, freezing rain is just rain, but it's falling when the temperature is at or below freezing. Sleet is different. Sleet's a little more like small ice pellets that they're the ones that make noise when they hit your windows, little pinging noises. And generally, freezing rain is a lot worse than sleet for driving and walking conditions. And so the freezing rain is a concern. Now, once the freezing rain and mixed bag moves in, it lasts maybe an hour or two in any one spot, maybe a little longer north of I-80. But nonetheless, most of us should be above freezing not long after daybreak. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. Notice even the coldest temperatures in the north are up to 34, 35. Now, I mentioned this earlier on social media. Everything is stuff that's outside right now is really cold. we've had Arctic air for a couple of days. We're going to have a situation tomorrow morning where even though the air temperature might technically be 33, 34 degrees, railings and your car windshield and stuff, trash cans, stuff that's sitting outside, probably the surface temperature on that stuff is probably still going to be below freezing, even though the air temperature itself is above. So the rain may continue to freeze on some surfaces for a couple of hours tomorrow morning, even though the air temperature is above freezing. So we'll have to watch for that. So your windshield, not only will, if your car is sitting out tonight, it's going to get a couple inches of snow and then a layer of ice on top of it. It'll be no fun to try to clean that off if you have to tomorrow morning. If you're lazy like me, and you want to wait until the afternoon to do your errands tomorrow, the warmer temperatures in the rain will melt a lot of it off and make it easier to get rid of. But, you know, tomorrow morning, not much fun scraping windshields and cleaning off cars with snow followed by ice. So a quick recap of our timing here. The ice concern is mostly between the hours of 3, 4 a.m. up to about 6, 7 a.m., perhaps lingering into 8 o'clock or so in some spots. Again, especially considering that ground objects are going to be very cold, even though the air temperature may be above freezing. All right, how much snow are we going to get before that ice? We're talking about a modest accumulation here. This isn't the end of the world, but you can see our computer models here are generally, and we're kind of focused right in through here on Friday night, are generally between 1 inch and 3 inches as a range. And that jives with our forecast pretty well. We have the most likely accumulation, and this covers our entire viewing area, 1 to 3 inches. The most I could see someone getting is 4. Best chance for a little bonus snow, probably in the far north where that changeover to freezing rain takes a little longer. Places like Kinsman and Greenville and Mespo, Sandy Lake. This isn't lake effect, but kind of that zone that typically sees higher amounts in lake effect may get a little more this time because of the slower changeover to some mixed precipitation. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here, check my comments. Thanks to everyone. I've got a nice big audience on this video tonight. I appreciate that. And we'll see what people are chiming in and saying. Amy, is it spring yet? Boy, I wish. I'm ready for it. All right, how will my drive home be around 7 a.m.? Why did that comment just disappear? Let me try to get that back. Bear with me for just a second. For whatever reason, that comment just vanished. Someone was asking about their drive home at 7 a.m. It can be slippery. There can be, a couple of inches of snow on the ground, followed by a period of ice, and temperatures will be just trying to get up to freezing at 7 a.m. So anything untreated certainly could be a little bit slick. Dave, going from Canfield to Austintown, leaving around 11:50. Will I be okay for that drive in Cortland to Canfield? Yeah, by midday you'll be doing just fine. Everything will just be wet, Dave, so no problems there. Leslie, a White Christmas, I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video, so just bear with me for a couple of minutes. And so, yeah, just thanks everyone for chiming in. I'll try to get to more of your questions here in just a second. So, the ice accumulation. Now, this is just one computer model, and I think this is kind of the worst case scenario. This model is pointing to upwards of 1/4 inch of ice in some spots. I can't rule that out, but I think the odds are closer to 1/10 inch or so. When we talk about 1/4 inch of ice, if that came to fruition, that would be more problematic. Here's some general guidelines when we're talking about ice accumulations, ice accretion on objects. Let me hide my camera here so you can see the wording. When we are getting up to 1/10 inch, which is certainly reasonable to expect, of course things become slick. Isolated, real spotty utility interruptions can't be ruled out. If someone gets a tree limb that sags over a power line, that could cause some problems. But the more substantial problems and the greater risk of power outages and problems and impacts from the freezing rain occur as you get closer to 1/4 inch. A true ice storm is generally thought of in our area as 1/4 inch of ice or more accumulating on tree limbs, power lines, and objects like that. Not expecting that level of ice, but could we see 1/10 or maybe even 2/10 inch? I think that's a possibility for some minor impacts from the ice. I think that's possible. I even have a low-end possibility of some power outages here. It's something I can't rule out. That would be bad news because, of course, it's cold. You wouldn't want your power to be out very long tomorrow morning. But I don't want to harp on this too much. I don't think the chances are all that great. One thing that will help us out a little bit, even if we get the higher amounts of ice, it's going to be pretty breezy in the morning. and that makes the ice, it makes it a little bit harder, just a little bit harder for the ice to glaze over onto things and stick onto tree limbs and power lines and that sort of thing. So roads and travel, though, moderate to high impacts. Again, the timing on this is pretty good. There's not going to be a lot of people out at 4 and 5 in the morning on a Saturday, but some people have to be out. Some people have to go to work. You know, people are chiming in on Facebook and saying, hey, I've got to go to work. I've got a trip. I've got things to do early in the morning. And if you do, just plan on things being a little bit slower than normal and take your time. You'll be just fine. This, this is a situation that we can handle if we just keep it slow and use some common sense and be aware of your surroundings. Real quick detour. Someone asked about a white Christmas. I talked about this on 21 News at 6, but in case you missed that, we're 9 days away from Christmas, and we've got quite a bit of snow on the ground. And so it seems like a no-brainer. Hey, we're only 9 days away from Christmas. Looks like a white Christmas, right? Everybody has, well, not everybody, but some people have a little definition of what a white Christmas is. Generally, I think of it as an inch or more of snow on the ground, more than just a little candy coating. Not necessarily it's snowing on Christmas itself, snowflakes in the air, but an inch on the ground, enough to cover the grass. That's what I think of as a white Christmas anyway. Historically speaking, looking back at 85 years of records, our area has about a 35 to 45% chance of a white Christmas. This year, actually, I have our odds a little lower than climatology. Well, why is that? Even though we're going to get a couple inches of snow tonight, at the very least, the fresh snow is going to melt tomorrow. And then some of the snowpack that exists right now is going to melt as well. We're going to get well up into the 40s. It's going to rain. And even though it is going to turn colder again Sunday and into Monday, the 7-day forecast features temperatures in the middle and upper 30s and some sunshine as we go towards the middle of next week. And I don't see many opportunities for accumulating snow in the last few days before Christmas. So this snow that we're going to get tonight, one of our last chances of accumulating snow before Christmas. We might pick up an inch Saturday night as the colder air wraps back in, but I don't see many snow storms. No big chances of snow storms on the horizon right before Christmas. And Christmas Day itself, we're 9 days away. We're within range now where we can take a semi-educated guess. And if I had to make a forecast at the moment, giving you a high temperature and everything, I would say 40 to 42 degrees. I can't really give you an educated guess on precipitation, rain, snow, that sort of thing. We're too far away for that, but I can say with a reasonable amount of certainty that temperatures will be above freezing, at least in the afternoon, on Christmas. Hopefully we don't have any storms that bring us any travel difficulties, but doesn't look all that super cold for Christmas. All right, in case you are tuning in just a little late, quick recap of tonight. First thing we're going to get is snow, probably 1 to 3 inches worth of snow starting in a few hours, 11 o'clock to midnight or so, lasting into parts of the overnight. Then we're going to see the mixed precipitation, including the threat for freezing rain for a few hours early tomorrow morning. And the freezing rain threat is mostly roughly 4 a.m. to 7 or 8 a.m. If you have shopping to do tomorrow, as a lot of people do, if you want to run some errands around lunchtime into the afternoon, you'll be just fine. Everything will be wet. It'll be warmer. It'll get into the 40s. So the longer you can wait tomorrow to get stuff done, the better off you'll be. If you have to be out first thing in the morning, though, and your car is sitting out, be prepared for it to take a little while to scrape that car off and get the snow and ice off, and then be prepared for some slower than normal travel for the first few hours or first couple of hours of daylight on your Saturday. All right, let me just check my comments and questions here one more time. Thanks again for joining me on this live edition of Weather for Weather Geeks this evening. We call it Weather for Weather Geeks because I usually get really technical sometimes with this video and really explain to you why the weather is going to do what it's going to do. Tyler asking any issues Saturday night, changing back. I think the rain will transition back to wet snow, Tyler, Saturday overnight, late at night. But accumulations, half an inch to an inch or so. I don't think it's any sort of big accumulation. Marla, what's it going to be like Saturday night around midnight? I think it's probably still raining at midnight. The changeover to snow comes after midnight. All right, traveling to Erie tomorrow. How will it be around 11 o'clock-ish? By that point, up in Erie itself, might still see some problems, but locally we'll be doing okay by 11. And as you travel that hour-and-a-half trip up to Erie, the warmer air is going to follow you up there, and I think by 11 you should be okay. Nicole's traveling to Wellsville for work. My comments keep disappearing on me. Where do they go? I apologize, Nicole. I didn't see when you said you were going to work, but heading to Wellsville early in the day can be tricky. The later you wait, the better off you will be, no matter where you're traveling for your Saturday. You know, Facebook drives me nuts sometimes. These comments are kind of just disappearing on me. I'd like to get to a few more before I call it a night here on this video. Driving to Akron at 5 a.m., John, be careful. It's going to be slick, especially on the side roads, the non-major roads. Clifford, Sunday night around 7, just fine. Nothing more than a flurry. It'll be cold, but the roads should be just fine Sunday night around 7. Justin, do you think we'll have a white New Year's Eve? Too soon to tell on that one, Justin. I do think that the week between Christmas and New Year's is likely to be mildish. It's late December, so it's not going to be 80 or anything like that, but I do think that week between Christmas and New Year's is generally going to be fairly benign temperature-wise. Snow, ice, rain, way too early to talk about that, but I can with some confidence say that week will not be all that cold. So thanks to everyone for tuning in on this live edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Full update tonight, 21 News at 11. I'll have you updated on social media, of course, as we go through the rest of the evening with fresh radar snapshots. And if you're up tomorrow morning and need a quick update on the conditions, make sure you're tuned into WFMJ Weekend today. Meteorologist Andrew DiPaolo will have you fully updated at that point, and I'll chime in once I'm up and at 'em on Saturday morning as well. Have a great Friday night, everyone.